Submit the application. Right.
Good evening. I am hereby calling to order the April 25th meeting of the Committee of the Whole. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balestrea.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Monaco.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta. Mrs. Snyder.
Here.
Mrs. Teresi.
Please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. The purpose of this meeting this evening is to discuss and update the Aquatic Center. So, Mr. Higley, representative from the Higley Group, I'm sorry. I was wondering if you wanted to start off. Two of the council members are not present this evening from the special meeting because that's why I wanted you to come, but unfortunately, they couldn't be here this evening.
Yeah, good evening. You know, we didn't bring any specific agenda with us. We had some good conversation last time, so really we're here to answer questions that may have come up either from the last meeting, then didn't get an opportunity to be answered, or if there's something that's come up since then. So that's really what we're here to answer. And then I know we got our GMP documents that we turned in for review too. So.
The members of council, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you. Good evening. I'm looking at Resolution 2022-34. It's on tonight's agenda.
Yes, sir.
And I'm looking at it, it says, whereas the first portion of the project has been designed and preparation of the site has been initiated. What does it mean, and preparation of the site has been initiated?
I would imagine that that's the demolition portion, the enabling package that they're out there doing now for the existing community center and a few miscellaneous buildings on site.
So, I guess I'm a little confused because this council hasn't approved anything yet. It's on the agenda tonight, so how could any of this work been started?
Well, the demolition package, as I mentioned, we consider those enabling packages as we go through the project. One enables the other and the subsequent
Yeah,
packages. So.
other than that, which came the last meeting, but I guess my question is what if this council hypothetically decides not to go ahead with this project? And how would we go back now? From what I can tell is the community building's been gutted.
Yeah, I mean, I can't speak for a council or the community, but yeah, the community center is on its way from a demolition standpoint, so.
Okay, and then in the section 1 of this, it says, the mayor he is hereby authorized to enter into a contract amendment with your company for a total construction cost not to exceed $60,716,000 in addition to the contract therefore. What does that in contract therefore mean?
I would imagine it's the demolition portion that they're referencing previously approved.
Okay, so you can't answer that, okay. Can I ask another question?
Does any other member of council have any questions right yet?
I do, but I can,
Are you okay if he goes and
yeah,
asks?
if Mr. John get his thoughts
Go ahead,
finished.
Mr. DeJohn.
I just, on the back of this page, it says construction contingencies. What does that mean?
There's several line items in the different packages for contingencies. Last time we spoke a little bit about design and estimated contingencies and market contingencies that are associated with that. And then there's construction contingency by contract that we carry that was part of our original proposal when we were first selected for the project. And that is our contingency line item. A little bit about that and what we talked about previously was if you had a hard bid number, you'd have $1 value right from us. Because of the transparency and the way that this process works, you see everything that we have in our contract, and that's one of the line items that you're seeing is that construction contingency that's included.
So, but we don't know what those are right now, because they're not listed in here.
They're unforeseen conditions, just specific to that line item. The contingencies for unforeseen conditions on our side from a scope standpoint.
So they're just in case, right?
Yes, sir.
But there's been money, like $3 million allotted for those contingencies, correct?
Correct. Yeah, and that was part of the estimate, the discussion that we had last time in those line items. So it's nothing different now. It's just showing up in this early or second GMP. The first one being the demo, the second one being the site work.
So have we decided, or have you been given the authority to do this job based on time and material?
No, sir, just the demolition portion, which we have a contract. We don't have a contract for any continuing work beyond the demolition.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Balestria?
Thank you, Madam Chair. Kevin, I was just wondering, when I was looking over the costs, one of the things outside, obviously millions of dollars, but just the CM fee kind of jumped out at me, and I was just wondering how the fee for the CM is calculated. Is that based on a formula? Is that based on percentage, or is it based on, calculated hours?
Sure.
Just how do you get at 127,000 and change
So it's based on percentage of the cost of the contract.
of the project?
Yes. Yeah, and it's that simple of a formula, and that was a number that we proposed when we were first selected as a CM. And so that hasn't changed.
Okay, I was just wondering how that calculation came about.
That's just a percentage.
Okay, thank you.
Mr. Monaco?
Oh, I have a lot of questions. I'm sure you heard some of this before, but is the landscaping? I'm sorry.
Jason, I didn't see your hand up. I apologize. Can we just intercept for 1 second?
I just wanted to piggyback on Gavin's comments on two items. One, with the CM contingency, it is a line item, but it's, if, for any unused contingency, and that includes the CM's contingency, that does get returned back to the city, so that it is it's a placeholder, but it's not a guaranteed number that we're gonna use in full unless, there's a lot of unforeseens. And then the CM fee itself, that was part of the RFQ and then RFP process. So for all of the shortlisted CMs that we had, we requested both the costs related to the CM contingency plus their fee, and we did a best value system so that we were able to get the most highly qualified CM at the best price.
Thank you.
Mr. Monaco, I'm sorry.
That's okay, thank you. First question is all the landscaping included in the cost that you submitted?
No, sir, it is not.
So the landscaping is extra?
Yes, the
you have-
most of the plantings are, yes.
Do you have an approximate figure what is that gonna cost?
I don't. I didn't bring a copy of the estimate, so it will be a detailed line item in that.
Okay, so the project cost started at $17 million. Approximately 2.5 weeks ago, the cost increased to $27 million. The estimated cost now is close to $34 million, and we have tried to keep the cost down by reducing the size of the building and reducing the occupant load in the building. The demolishing of the community center is not even started yet, and you are already asking for an additional $21,044 in cost. We also know that the city will incur additional costs due to the new complex being built on a landfill. The city is taking all the risks on this project. The contractor is taking none. We have no cap on spending and no assurance that the Aquatic Center will be completed in time for 2023 season. The demolition of exterior pool should be done in conjunction with the building of the new pool. The spoil removed from the new pool location could be used to backfill the old pool, eliminating the cost of hauling dirt away and then paying again to bring it in to fill in the pool when it's filled. We should go green with new buildings encouraging solar panels and geothermal heating. We must also get final approval from the Planning Commission, from the Plan Examiner, and obtain proper permits prior to commencing work. The Board of Building Standards will allow footer's permit to be issued before the building permit in some instances, and this could be an exception. None of us here would hire an architect to draw a new house and hire and pay a contractor before the drawing is completed with all the details. The inflation due to COVID and the war has placed a burden on all of us, but construction costs have increased anywhere from 25 to 40%. I have consulted numerous large construction contractors, and they all telling me that the maximum they went up was 40%. Nothing has doubled in the cost during last year. In my opinion, since the cost has escalated so much, we should have a new bidding process or hire a construction estimator to look over those numbers. Final concern. 2,180 people are permitted on the playground, pool, and deck, and 1,026 for the building. So the total number of people when we have full capacity in this complex will be 3,206. We all know that we're never going to be at full capacity there, but we may very well be at half capacity, which will be 1,600 people. Now, if you are half full and you have 1,600 people and 2 people driving a car, we need 800 parking spaces. So I don't know why we're really hurrying with this project. I think we should sit back, revisit this. Again, we want to go forward with this, but I think that this is too costly and there is too many unknowns on this thing. My opinion is that we should continue with the drawing, get the drawings finalized, set the drawings out for bidding so we get some solid numbers and move forward with that. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. Do you have questions or just wanted to read the comment? Any questions for the gentleman this evening?
No, just the comments. There's no questions.
Mr. DeJohn?
Do you have any comments for Mr.
I'm
Monaco?
not sure what the question was, sir.
Also, there was no question, and you don't want to comment. Well, just let's take the first question. Do you think you need drawings before you could build this project?
We have drawings, and the pricing that we submitted this evening for consideration was based on those drawings and bid numbers from subcontractors, multiple subcontractors.
Madam Chair.
Mr. Monaco?
There was a question that was asked last week, and the question was, who is the contractor, who is the entity who is going to build the slide? We don't even know who's going to build the slide. How do you know what the cost is? We don't even know who's going to build it.
There's numbers that were provided for estimating purposes based on vendors that do that work, and one of them has been participating in the design.
And who is this vendor, may I ask?
Yes, sir. Splashtacular, excuse me.
Okay.
Does anybody else have any? I have another question.
Mr. DeJohn?
So, obviously, your company's been in business for a very long time, very well respected out there. How many times have you done a job, time and materials versus giving one set price for a
Well,
job this size?
You don't do a job this size, time and material, and that's not the way that this contract is set up.
Well, aren't you gonna bid things, bring them back to us, have us authorize the amount?
Yes, sir, that's the way it's done, but it's not time and material. There's still risk associated with that. Time and material doesn't contemplate that risk.
So where's the risk when we do it that way?
Well, if we come to you for a price and we exceed that price, that's where the risk is at.
I don't know that I understand that.
Yeah, so if we bid something out from a site work standpoint, and something happens on the project inside the contract that, say, we should have covered or we should have contemplated, that could potentially come back on us if it's outside of a contingency use. Same with our subcontractors. If they were out there and something happened, let's say they had to redo some work or something like that, that would be on us and not the city.
So I guess I'm asking, if somebody came to you like a project like this and said, give me a set number, would you bid it that way?
Well, that's what we are doing, phased, based on design, based on original schedule that was communicated to us. So if we kind of step back and we look at the process, and we talked a little bit about it last time, maybe not in detail as far as the schedule, okay, and looking at that schedule and the date that we originally want to get into the building and back schedule that and what it was going to take to back schedule and when we needed to start, that's what we've done here. And we're pretty close to that process. So we recognized early on that there were market considerations that needed to be addressed from a design standpoint so we could go out for bid, which we've done, on the generators, the steel, and those other packages that are in front of you tonight. So I don't think this is out of the norm of especially a CMR project where it's commonplace to do multiple, 3, 4, 5 plus GMPs through that delivery model. It's very common.
Mr. DeJohnson, are you done?
So you estimated it in this ordinance tonight at 32 million plus, right? So you're not going to go over 33 million? Is that what you're saying?
Well, right now, that's what we're saying. And as the design progresses for the balance of the packages, we're confident in that number.
Okay, thank you.
I have a question for you. What are some of the VE options to help the city save money?
Did anybody bring a list? Yeah. I did not bring a list of those. There was a lot kind of thrown out there. Some of it's finish related. A lot of it has to do with the balance of the building and the balance of the design outside of site work. Really, the only thing from a site work standpoint was some piping material, I believe.
Brett, could you?
Either one.
Hi, good evening. So one of the alternates that was listed in the bid for the earthwork package was to change on-site, so downstream from the meter from the city for domestic water piping, from ductile iron, which is also a concern right now on lead time. In the industry, we're seeing that at over a year out for 3-inch ductile iron pipe, of which has been specified for this project. An approved alternate from the City of Cleveland Water Department, as well as Karpinski Engineering, who's the consulting engineers for the project, is to go to C900 and HDPE piping system that is very robust as well. And that alternate was listed as $45,000 from the low responsible site work contractor. So that is a VE option for the project for potential savings there.
What about like the picnic shelter, the playground, some of the slides?
Yeah, so those, again, those are estimated costs in the full estimate that we presented last week. None of those scopes have been bid or are in the proposal this evening for approval to proceed with those scopes. So those are still options that can be refined and designed upon the completion of the documents.
Madam
But
Chair.
those are within the $34 million, though.
Those are
Or
within the.
33.
Yeah, those are within the estimate that was provided. The GMP amendment this evening is only for select scopes of
Right.
work that have been bid, correct? But yes, those are currently included in that $33 million number.
Do you typically see a savings when people make that choice and go and do these VE options? Like how, like, I think that's what we're looking at, to see areas that we could try and cut back.
Yes, I mean, there's always considerations for scope. I mean, scope reduction is a value engineering option to eliminate, parts or pieces of the project. There's also, again, the piping alternate that I just explained to everyone. That's an alternate that I would consider of equal value, that there's cost savings to go to a different product that performs very much similar to the specified product in that manner, so.
And when does that GMP come to us for the piping?
It's included in tonight's resolution as the specified ductile iron, but if you look at the bid recaps, so there's a form in your packet that should have all the received bids, and one of the alternates listed down below was the value engineering to go to C900. And so we received different pricing from the bidders on what that value would be if we made that selection. So right now, the ductile iron piping is included in the pricing that's presented, but there is an option to still select that alternate and go to and save money in that regard for the piping.
So if we were to vote in favor of the GMP this evening that includes the way you originally proposed it or bid it out, how would we get that, if we decided to do that other option, how would we separate that amount out from that?
There's a couple options. Either we could turn around and create a deductive change order for the project from our contract value to accept that, or it could be included in the next GMP amendment as well.
As a deduction?
As a deduction,
Right.
correct. Yep.
Okay. Mr. Trotta, I'm sorry.
Yeah, just wanted to clarify that from a value engineering standpoint, we, there's the slide, we are reducing that 6 feet. So there'll be recognized savings from the reduction of that slide. Yet to be seen, the manufacturer is going to get us that information. We'll adjust. The other items like the storage building, the picnic pavilion, the playground, there are items that as a backup, besides the 2 to 3 million of contingency dollars, that if we need to, there's some parts of the project that we could defer. If that was acceptable as the backup, the fallback position, if costs go up. The playground also may receive a couple grants, an opportunity soon and then in the fall, so there might be additional money at that time. From the building itself, we have value engineered it from a 36,000 square foot building to a 33,400 square foot building. We reduced the gym, we've reduced the meeting rooms a little bit. It's a pretty lean building now from the standpoint of the architecture, the interiors. We have open ceilings. We haven't finished out every space to the T. It's just the high touch, like the concourse, the meeting rooms, the multi-purpose rooms. We've done nice finishes there, but we've been very conservative with the design to date. There may be opportunities like moving the giant slide and some of the accessory slides and the playground, FF&E, to the point where the city could procure some of those items, and that might result in some cost savings. So I think there's some areas where if the city could procure more of the project, not that we'll be coordinating, the CM will be coordinating with you, but that also could result in some savings. And there's other items that we're going to be talking through this week, but I think they're, but we're to the point where you can't, reduce much more from the standpoint of the building itself. If you looked at the gymnasium and said, oh, could we reduce it? Could we not? It's at a point where everything's pretty locked in. But, when you look at some finishes or engineering systems, there's some items we've batted back and forth this last week. And there's a short list of items that we think we can do, plus these contingency items. But that's kind of where we stand with it.
Mr. DeJean?
How big is the community rooms, community center rooms? Total square footage?
We're able to have about 238 people is where it was when prior it was upwards of 300. So it has reduced about 50 people over the time from the size of it.
Do you know what the square footage is?
I don't have the figure in
Gee.
hand, but it was 4,500 before, it's probably like 3,800, something like that, square feet now.
Can you just send that to me, email me that?
Yeah.
The total square footage just for the community
Yeah.
center area?
Mr. Monaco?
Thank you, Madam Chairman. You're asking tonight for $29,000 additional dollars for the community center. When you looked at the demolition of that structure, did you look at the electrical? Did you look at the plumbing? Did you look at the sewers and everything that needs to be disconnected? How did you find out that the building in the back is fed from the community center?
When they went out to start prepping for the demolition, they flipped all the breakers on the main panel, and the gentlemen that were working in the maintenance facility came over and asked if we had done anything particular, and that's what we had done. Turned the power off, so that's how we found out when they lost power to the maintenance building.
Okay. You knew that there was 1 meter for both buildings, is that correct?
I did not know that.
But maybe you should have known. If you bid some, I mean, you would see that there is a meter that's feeding both buildings. That would automatically would put up a red flag in my mind and say, maybe the building in the back is fed by this. So why couldn't you figure that out at the beginning?
It's the same with the water too, because it's buried underground. You can't see it from the outside.
Yeah, but you know that there is 1 meter there. If the other building was separate, it would have its own meter.
So not the case. We knew that there was a meter to the community center.
So you had to assume that the meter was for both
No,
buildings.
I don't have to assume that. There could be power at the maintenance facility down on the other side or something. We didn't know that. We had the address actually for the meter, and the account was for that building. There were 2.
Well, I'm very disappointed that it was not caught at the beginning because it should have in my mind.
I don't believe it's add costs. It's actually added an inconvenience, I will agree, but it hasn't added cost. Because if we would have recognized that in the first place, then we would have had to do what we're doing now, and the cost would have been in the GMP, not as an addition.
Mr. Trotta?
Yeah, as part of our diligence, we reached out to the city and the building department for drawings of that existing building, and you do not have any of the construction drawings or as-built drawings of that facility. So there isn't a way from our engineers on-site or looking through a set of drawings to know anything about that project. And we've looked for months that you guys looked internally and did not have them, so we could not determine that ahead of time.
Sir, with all due respect, if you see that there is 1 meter for 2 buildings,
We didn't know it was connected.
So,
From a meter, it doesn't say that it's connected, a whole other series of buildings connected to it. There are no documents or drawings that the city has for us to determine that. We've asked and inquired many times, and it's been researched by Tom Jamison and the whole building department, and you have no drawings. You need the as-built conditions to understand the systems. Someone connected it through there some point in time, and it should not have done that. It should have had its own service. We don't know who or how, but it was done. And we only found out when we turned the switch off. That's the only clue that we had.
this is not different than if you have a house and you have a structure in the back, namely a detached garage. If you have a detached garage, you assume that it's being fed from the house. This is exactly the same situation.
I'm not sure which is the garage and which is the house, but we did not assume that they're different parcels.
Thank you.
can I just ask a question on this whole topic? Our resolution 2022-35 has an amount for $29,000 to reroute the electric. So that's the portion for that, right? Correct.
Yes. Yes, it is.
Okay, thank you. Mr. DeJohn?
So that's something the illuminating company doesn't do? The rerouting of the electrical?
No, they will unplug it, which they've done, and they'll plug it back in when the owner is done doing the work.
So
the
you put in the
infrastructure.
piping or whatever it is, right?
Correct, yeah, there's piping, there's a meter set that needs to be included in that. Yeah.
Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Thomas, when you get a chance, can you also email me the square footage of the existing community center, please? Thank you.
Mr. Mano, do you have anything?
I would only say that over the years, going back a lot of years, there's probably been a number of things done in this city, very, very comparable to what's happened up there at the community building. You got to remember that back in those days, the people that were in charge and were able to do things did them, sometimes without the knowledge of anyone else, in order to save a few bucks. When they built those buildings up there in the back, there should have been a panel put in there to service them, and it should have been wired into the pole, to the main pole. But how would anybody have any idea that somebody decided to make a trench and bury the lines and run them into an existing facility and join them into that panel? You'd have no way to know that. And like I said, over the years, there's probably been a lot of that stuff done. This building here, when they did the renovation in this building, not only before the renovation, but after the renovation, there was that kind of stuff going on. All you got to do is look at the HVAC system in this building. That's all you got to do. That's never been right since day one. And that's because other people, in order to try to save a buck or cut a corner, did something that nobody else knew about. And you find out about it later. So, I don't have a problem with this situation with the electrical, because I know how that happened. So that's all I got to say. Just be cognizant of the fact it's not the first time stuff like this has happened. It's happened in the past. Back in the old days, it was you scratch my back and I'll scratch yours when it came to getting things done. That's how the illuminating company paid for those scoreboards and all the light towers and stuff like that, because we allowed them to store some of their stuff on city property, because we offered to help them when they came here to do stuff with some equipment, maybe some manpower. That's the way it was done. You can't do that today, obviously, but that stuff was done many, many years ago. So you got to take that into consideration.
Thank you, Mr. Mano. Mr. DeJohn? Good? Okay. Thank you for your time. Does anybody else have anything else to say? Mr. Ward? Mr. Trotta? Okay. All right. Mayor, I forgot to ask you, I'm sorry. Okay. Do I have a motion to adjourn?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balistrea, second by Mr. DeJohn. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. This meeting has now been adjourned. This is true. Good evening. I'd like to welcome everyone this evening to the April 25th council meeting of the City of Mayfield Heights. May I have a roll call, please?
Mr. Balstrella.
Present.
Mr. DeJohn.
Here.
Mr. Mano.
Here.
Mr. Monaco.
Here.
Mrs. Sabetta. Mrs. Snyder.
Here,
Mrs. Teresi.
please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Next is the approval of the minutes from the council meeting of the Committee of the Whole on April 11th. I hope everyone's had time to read those minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mr. Mano,
Second.
second by Mr. Balstrella. Are there any changes or amendments to those minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Nay. These minutes have been approved. Next to the approval of the minutes of the council meeting of the April 11th, 2022 meeting. I hope everyone's had time to read these minutes over. Is there a motion to approve the minutes? Moved by Mr. Monaco, second by Mr. Mano. Are there any suggested changes or deletions to these minutes? All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? These minutes have now been approved. At this time, does any member of council have any correspondence or announcements? Seeing none, we'll move to reports of officers, beginning with the mayor.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Good evening, everyone. I'm pleased to announce that Apex Dermatology, currently located at Landerbrook, is expanding. A groundbreaking ceremony will take place Thursday, April 28th at 11:30 a.m. on the corner of Landerbrook and Cedar. The new facility will encompass their new headquarters, medical offices, and a spa. So we're very happy to see that they're staying in the city and expanding. Probably everyone has heard, not probably, I'm sure everyone has heard, Walmart notified me on April 19th that they will close their Mayfield Heights store to the public May 20th. All employees at the location received the information, obviously, right away, and they're trying to relocate some of those employees as best as they can. So they are also, I should say, supplying them with some additional support options, I believe. They alluded to that fact, and I'm not sure what they are, but I think Walmart is trying to take care of those employees as best they can. And we do not have plans, nobody has approached the city for any new plans for the city yet, for the site yet. So we'll see what happens there. We did install new lighting under the Marsall Bridge, and the area received a spring cleanup by the service department, removing all the brush and debris. So we thank them for that. And then also the service department has been very busy. Spring is usually very busy for them. Road crew was out last Monday with, keep your fingers crossed, the last plow of the season. And they started street sweeping too, the north side of the city. So crews are trimming trees, cold patching, areas of Mayfield Road, and recently completed hot patching sections on Woodhawk. A new class from the Citizens Police Academy will graduate this week. The 9-week class, instructed by various members of the police department, educates citizens on topics such as patrol, traffic accidents, criminal investigations, SWAT tactics, fingerprinting, and much more. The class offers residents an opportunity to learn and experience the operations of our police department. And you can find information about the program on our website. It's a great program. Everyone who goes through there just can't say enough about it, and about the guys who put it on. So we have a tremendous police force, so I'm glad that they get to interact with our residents that way. And that concludes my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for the mayor? Mayor, I just have one quick question. I had a resident call me about a very large hole on Maplewood over by Costco, the street. And there's, I don't know if there's work going on over there, but she's very concerned about someone getting hurt over there. Mr. DeJohn?
Just one thing, Mayor, just a suggestion. If you could put in the city focus that mattresses cannot be put on tree lawns without a cover on them. I'm starting to see a lot of mattresses throughout the city just thrown out there. And of course, our Kimball will not take those mattresses, so just let them know maybe in the city focus at what our requirement
I'll
is.
put it in my newsletter too, that goes out more often.
Yeah, thank you.
I have one more question. Any updates on the median? Mayfield Road median?
Well, yeah, we're still talking about what we want to do there, cost-wise, because it's not, we haven't budgeted for that. So we're talking about what we want to do, whether it's to rip it out completely, whether it's to put in planters, rehab what's there. So we're going over a lot of options right now.
Okay. Mr. DeJohn?
In regards to that, there was some ladies that contacted me, and I gave them to our service director, Mr. Fatika. Do you know if they're part of this process of designing something out there? They really wanted to help and assist in designing and actually work on the project.
And plant, yes, he did
plant.
talk to me about it.
Okay,
Yep.
all right. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Law Director, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report, but I do have two items I'd like to mention. Ordinance number 2022-14, the parcel number is 863-05-026. There was a misprint in the resolution I prepared, and so that has been corrected by Shanisha, and I will read the correct parcel number. Secondly, is with regard to resolution number 2022-32. I have a request by Joe Gallagher to speak. If you could come up to the podium for a second. Your request for a variance was denied by the Board of Zoning Appeals, so now it automatically comes to council. Now, I'm assuming that you are going to request that council reverse the decision of the Board of Zoning Appeals and grant the variance.
Yep.
Okay, in order for council to do that, by its ordinances, you need 5 votes to reverse. And tonight, there are only 5 members of council here. So 1 negative vote and you're out. Hopefully, at the next meeting, we'll have a full contingent of council members, which is 7. And I would suggest that this resolution be placed on first reading tonight, and then you come back in 2 weeks for, what is that, the 9th, I think, so that you can have your case presented to all 7 council members. You're welcome to go forward tonight, but you have no margin for error, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
So it's entirely up to you, but I would suggest you defer it, and we'll just consider it in 2 weeks.
Well, I'll go ahead with it tonight because Brent, our contractor, came. Just if there was any questions for him, he was going to help me out with what we kind of planned for the driveway, like the extension. But yeah, we like barely have any parking in our driveway.
So we have a public portion, and when that part comes up at the council meeting,
Oh, I'm sorry.
I'll address it, and you can come up and talk.
Oh, okay.
You could still do all of that tonight.
Okay.
And then it was just, he's giving you the option to, let us have a full council to postpone it.
Okay.
Mr. Brent?
Okay. We'll just wait till 2 weeks then. I'll just
Okay.
wait till the next time.
Okay,
thank you.
thank you. I was going to. Okay. We'll figure it out. Are there any questions for Mr. Murphy? Director of Finance, I'm sorry. Acting
There is no
Director.
report this evening.
Okay. Thank you. All right, next we will move to reports of committees, commissions, and boards, starting with the Building Committee. Mr. Monaco?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I have no report this evening, but I had conversation with the new building commissioner. The conversation was about the permit fee schedule. I believe that he's in the process of revisiting this, and as soon as I hear back from him, we will schedule a meeting to discuss. This is the end of my report.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. Finance and Audit Committee, Mr. DeJohn.
Thank you, Madam President. I have no report this evening.
Okay. A Legislative Committee, Mrs. Sabetta is absent, so Mr. DeJohn, do you have any report?
I have no report for her this evening. Thank you.
Parks, or Public Works and Service, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. No report at this time.
Thank you, Mr. Balestrea. Recreation and Parks, Mr. Mano.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. We'll be holding the spring shootout bocce tournament on Saturday, May 14th. This event kicks off the summer bocce season. We are in need of a few more baseball players to round out our minor leagues, ages 9 to 10, and major league, ages 11 to 12 baseball teams. So if you know anybody that would like to play ball, tell them to get in touch with the rec department. A Heart Saver AED class will be held in the fire department on May 11th from 6 to 8:45 p.m. The registration in advance is required. The fee is $20. This class is for teachers, coaches, fitness professionals, babysitters, scout leaders, and so on. Teen Camp is still taking registration for this adventure-filled camp. Day camp for children entering K through 6th grades in the fall of 2022 are filled for the sessions A and B. We have limited space in session C, which runs July 18th through August 5th. Safety Town will have a 6 one-week session this summer. The program will take place at Lander Elementary. The program is for children entering kindergarten in the fall of 2022. The fee is $40. To receive any more information on these and other recreation activities, please contact the website or give us a call at 442-2627. That's my report.
Thank you. Are there any questions for Mr. DeJohn?
Mr. Manno, where will the minor and major league baseball players play? What field will they play on?
I would assume Highland Heights. John? Oh, okay.
Thank you.
Are there any other questions for Mr. Mano? Okay. Safety and Transportation, Mrs. Tressi is absent, so Mr. Monaco.
I think we have some on the agenda tonight, and I just heard that the matter is going to be placed on first reading, and I think it's going to be discussed at a later date.
We have two, we have something from the police department and something from the fire department. So we could discuss it as it comes before us. All right. Board of Zoning Appeals, Mrs. Sabetta is absent this evening, and I will read her report. The BZA met on April 12th, welcoming new member Joe Brunello and Building Director Braden Thomas. Council should have received the minutes from the meeting. One of the items on tonight's agenda is, there is one item on tonight's agenda, and I encourage the applicant to address it during council. But he has now left. So, but that's all that she had for this evening. Thank you. Yeah. Okay, Planning Commission, Mr. Balestrea.
Thank you, Madam Chair. The Planning Commission will have a special meeting Thursday, April 28th, in lieu of the Monday, May 1st meeting. The final site plan for the Aquatic Center will be presented. I just received the plans in my packet today, so Hopefully, all planning commission will have that reviewed and will be presented on Thursday, April 28th. So I wanted the public and council to know we will not meet on the 1st, but Thursday, April 28th at 6 p.m., I believe. Okay. And that's my report.
Thank you, Mr. Balestra. Are there any questions? Okay, we will move to comments from the public. Pursuant to the city code, each person will be allotted 5 minutes to speak with a maximum of 30 minutes for the entire public portion. If you are here in connection with an agenda item, this is your opportunity to address council. However, please note that this is not the opportunity for debate or slighted comments. If you would like to be heard this evening and have not done so, please fill out the form located on the back table of the entrance. During the public portion, I will call upon each of you wishing to speak. Please state your name and address for the record and speak clearly into the microphone. It is now 7:17. Would anyone like to be heard? Come up forward. Hi, thank you. Thank you. Chad, please state your name and address.
Oh, yeah. My name is, excuse me. My name is Chad Lichten. My address is 6295 Fairhaven Road. I've been here a few times talking about light pollution, and I know Robert DeJean is interested in working with the prosecutor to figure some sort of ordinance because of how out of hand it's gotten. So I'm just here to speak more about it. So wrote, well, we have this bully neighbor. If you didn't know, I've talked about him and how he's amped his light up since I've explained to him how much it hurts me. He basically responded, "Now I know." And from then on, it's been a painful situation with someone who literally doesn't even live there. He just goes there about an hour a day, and we have to deal with his, post light with what I measured to be a 2,000 watt incandescent equivalent bulb, which if you look at it for a half a second, your eyeballs are in pain. And anyway, there are people who are only content when they bother others, those who have just excessively loud vehicles, and we allow all this. At night, they use light to make it painful, not peaceful. They always have excuses like it's for my protection or it's perfectly legal. Yet since we've tried to reason with the neighbors, only increase the brightness. Every night we have to cover every square inch of our front windows because any glimpse is damaging to our eyesight. It's that bad. It's not diffused in any way. It's a bulb that is just, it's incredibly powerful. So I've measured all this. The human eye is always adapting to changing ambient light, and during the darkness of night, the eye becomes upwards of 1 million times more sensitive than during daylight. It's not only your iris that changes, but the photoreceptors in your retina increase largely in sensitivity. The retina is not designed to be scorched by high-powered point sources without inevitable, irreplaceable damage. In photography, we measure the relative differences in light with stops, and I've measured his light. And the relative difference of our lawn to the sunlight is about 17 stops of light. Stops being a doubling. It's an exponential increase each stop. His is 25 stops greater than the ambient light in our kitchen in a dark night. So it's literally 2.6 trillion times more intense than the ambient light that I literally can see fine in the dark of night. So it's painful as hell if I get a glimpse of it. So I have to just cover up. Basically, I'm saying all this to back up DeJean because he wanted me to speak today because I want this too. Maybe for different reasons. We haven't even spoke very much, but I want this too. I want some sort of ordinance that can make my life livable again. And leaving a light on like that's that intense is totally unnecessary. It's disrespectful to your neighbors, and I'm unlucky to have a neighbor who knows it hurts me and amps it up. Most people would be civil and work these differences out, and I've heard of many other instances in which it, you know, the neighbor worked it out with the neighbor, but not with this guy, so, anyway. How much time do I have?
Almost a minute.
A minute 15.
All right. Before you vote against this, what Dijon is trying to do, before you vote against it or for it, I wish you to understand the problem more. Come over to my place at night, let your eyes adjust to the darkness for about an hour, and look out of our window. Then you can be properly equipped to vote yes or no. It's insane to think that you ask your neighbor, you say you have a sensitivity to light, and they say, now I know, and you know they start amping it up. That's why we need some regulation here. The technology is too strong, and there's no laws against it. Its use or its misuse. I'm all for freedom to basically do whatever you want, but when it's at the expense of another, when people can't even look out of their window anymore because those who have all the security in the world, you know, do what they want to do, there's a problem there. And I would call it a use it when you need it law, you know. If you have something you're doing outside, turn on your light. Other than that, if you want lights at night, make them gentle. That's all. I could go on for an hour longer, but I crammed this pretty fast, so.
It's okay.
You know, not used to public speaking either, but I'm done.
You did great.
Thank you. I'll be back.
So we are at
Yeah.
5 minutes, and if you want to come back, you're welcome to.
Okay, but consider Dijon's,
Yeah.
there's reasons to get this going, really. This isn't to be taken lightly. It's the technology, the increase in technology is insane. Just in the recent years, so.
I know it's
yeah.
still under research, and it's not on tonight's agenda. It's actually tabled. So there's
That's
still
okay.
more time to look it over. And,
Good.
And there will be discussions about it.
I want it
okay?
to be done right, if it's gonna be done. But yeah, just consider it and ask me questions. If you have any questions, I live in
You know a lot about
Mayfield.
the lights.
I know more than anyone at this point, no offense. I've had to become somewhat of an expert just to talk about it, you know. But anyway,
Thank
I'm done.
you.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you, guys. Yeah.
Is there anybody else that would like to be heard this evening? Okay. It is now 7:25, and I will close the public portion. We'll begin with Resolution 2022-32. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2022-32, a resolution confirming the action of the Board of Zoning Appeals of the City of Mayfield Heights in denying the Joseph Gallagher, 1341 Wharton Boulevard, a variance to widen the driveway on said property into the rear yard along the west side of the garage. Cuyahoga County Permanent Parcel Number 862-02-047. First reading.
Move to leave on first read.
You don't need to move.
Okay. This resolution number 2022-32 will be on first reading.
Chair, can I make a comment on this, or?
Yes.
I'm looking at the application that was submitted to the building department, and the application clearly states that this is nothing more than a patio, 18 by 30 patio going on the right side of the garage. The building commissioner, in my opinion, had no grounds to disapprove this because, again, on the application, does not say there was a driveway extension. It's not drawing as a driveway extension. Therefore, it's a patio, and a patio is allowed in Mayfield Heights. Now, if a conversation followed and the applicant told them that they was gonna use that for a parking pad, then the applicant should have changed the application to show that there was a concrete pad on the side of the building, and then the building commissioner would have denied that permit. But as submitted here, it clearly shows a patio. and a patio should have never went to the Board of Zoning Appeals because that is perfectly legal in the city of Mayfield Heights to build a patio.
Mr. Murphy?
The application was made to the building department for whatever the application showed, and the application was denied by the building commissioner. So therefore, it goes to the Board of Zoning Appeals. If the applicant wants to make the argument that the building commissioner erred in denying the application, then he can do that, and if council agrees, then council can vote that no variance was necessary. But the procedure that's being followed is correct right now.
Mr. Murphy,
Mr. Monaco?
Thank you. Mr. Murphy, I strongly disagree with your assessment. The applicant showed a document here, legal document, which is a request for permit, and the permit clearly shows a patio. Again, your building commissioner denied the construction of a patio in somebody's backyard, and that should have not happened. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Monaco. All right, resolution number 2022-33, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2022-33, a resolution authorizing the mayor to take all steps necessary to apply for and accept a NatureWorks grant from the state of Ohio to assist in constructing the playground at the Mayfield Heights Aquatic Center in the city and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Second.
Moved by Mr. Ballestreous, second by Mr. Mano. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Ballestrea.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
No.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes.
On first reading. The
Resolution-
motion to suspend failed, so it's on first reading.
Resolution 2022-33 is on first reading.
Madam President.
Mr. DeJohn?
So I see Mayor DeSico is upset this is getting suspended, but we have until June 1st to apply for this grant. So what seems to be the problem?
Mayor?
Are you asking me what seems to be the problem? Because you have the opportunity to approve a no-brainer, resolution this evening to apply for funds. And the sooner you get it out, the better. I mean,
And applying for funds always costs the city money. And sometimes those funds don't go towards, but we really need to place those funds towards.
no, this is for the playground only.
Mr. Ward, can you please approach the podium and explain the whole?
And if I could, Mr. DeJohn challenged where funds go when we're awarded them. When they go to what the specific grant says they go to. And you, as council, vote whether we apply for that grant or not and where it goes. And I take exception to that you say the money goes someplace else. That is not true.
Not what I said.
That's exactly what
Mano.
you said.
Or Mr. DeJohn?
So the NatureWorks grant is going to go to help offset the cost of this project. We're earmarking it for the playground, making it an ADA accessible playground. And I think the line item right now is $700,000. And so this grant has a max of $150,000 that we can get. We are also planning on trying to apply for a grant in the fall to put on top of this as well.
What is our match to it?
There's a 25% match, but we're well beyond the cost.
And when do
So
we
we're just
have-
reducing the cost of the,
Playground.
And when do we have to use that money by?
it'll be approved in the fall, and then we'll have to use it. We'll have I think it's a year and a half
I mean,
timeframe.
that's important because you have to use it by a certain point, so.
Certainly.
I mean, that's a pertinent question in this case.
So you have to use it. There's a time frame that you have to use it, and we'll be falling in that time frame. We're trying to have this playground ready for next May.
And I'm not saying that I don't want to apply for this grant. I just want a little bit more time to look at it. I did ask you for the link to the grant, correct? I just want to look at it and see if I have any more questions before I approve something. I don't want to be a rubber stamp council. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ward, for explaining. Resolution 2022-34, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2020, no? Can't hear me anyway. Resolution 2022-34, a resolution authorizing and approving GMP Amendment Number 2 to the agreement with the Albert M. Higley Company for the construction of the Mayfield Heights Aquatic Center and Community Center and declaring an emergency. First reading.
We'll go ahead and leave Resolution 2022-34 on first reading. Resolution 2022-35, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Resolution 2022-35, a resolution authorizing and approving GMP Amendment Number 3 to the agreement with the Albert M. Higley Company for the construction of the Mayfield Heights Aquatic Center and the Community Center and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Manos, second by Mr. Balistraya. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. DeJohn,
No.
Mr. Monaco,
No.
Mr. Balistraya.
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. This resolution will stay on first reading. Moving to ordinances, 2022-14, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2022-14, an ordinance authorizing the purchase of Cuyahoga County permanent parcel number 863-05-026 from Michael A. Gilambardo and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balistraya, second by Mr. Monaco. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Balistraya.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve? Moved by Mr. Manos, second by Mr. Monaco. The purchase of this property, which is located adjacent to the City Hall complex, would give the city the ability to expand its complex. This would give the city the ability to make full use of our City Hall. The cost of this property is $145,000. Are there any questions or comments from council? Mr. Balistraya.
I guess I can direct it to the law director. I just noticed on the purchase agreement, the mayor is listed as the buyer, but on the back, it says the purchaser is the city of Mayfield Heights. Does that make a difference as to why the mayor's name?
No, it doesn't, because that's the representative of the buyer to be contacted if
Okay.
there's any
I just wanted to
any
make sure
question.
that
Yeah,
wasn't a typo.
he's not the buyer, he's the representative of the buyer.
Just on the contract, it just says that he is the buyer, to the buyer.
Actually, it says notices to buyer.
Okay. All right, thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further questions? All right, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balistraya.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn,
Yes.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mr. Mano,
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Ordinance 2022-14 has been approved. Ordinance number 2022-15, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. Ordinance number 2022-15, an ordinance authorizing the mayor to purchase a Nissan vehicle from Suburban Police Anti-Crime Network, SPAN, for use by the Mayfield Heights Police Department and declaring an emergency. First reading.
Is there a motion to suspend the rules?
Move.
Moved by Mr. DeJohn,
Second.
second by Mr. Belstrade. Roll call on the motion to suspend.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes. Is there a motion to approve?
Move.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mr. Belstrade. Chief Mealy has recommended that the police department purchase a vehicle in which they need for their department. The vehicle is being purchased for $14,829.30, which is the remainder of a lease buyout. With the rising cost of vehicles, they feel this is a good purchase for the department. The purchase needs to be made immediately because the lease end date is April 29th, 2022. It's the 2019 Nissan. Are there any questions or comments from council? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this resolution has been adopted. We will now move to motions, beginning with motion A. Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chairman. A motion to authorize the sale of a vehicle by the fire department. The vehicle is a 2011 Dodge Super Duty 2500, VIN number 3C6T D5CT8CG242787. The mileage is 41,118.
Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano. Second by Mr. Belstrade. We should have all received a memo from Chief Elliott. The new utility pickup truck that we approved at a recent council meeting has been delivered. He would like this current truck to be authorized through GovDeals to be sold, and this is the current process. So are there any questions from council? Okay, roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this motion is carried. Moving to motion B, Mr. Murphy.
Thank you, Madam Chair. A motion to authorize the Service Department to solicit bids for rock salt for the 2022-2023 season.
Is there a motion to approve?
Moved.
Moved by Mr. Mano, second by Mr. DeJohn. Unfortunately, this is about the time that we go out for bids for rock salt. Not really wanting to think about winter again, but it's what we have to do. Any comments or questions from council? Roll call on the motion to approve.
Mr. DeJohn.
Yes.
Mr. Monaco.
Yes.
Mr. Balestria.
Yes.
Mr. Mano.
Yes.
Mrs. Snyder.
Yes, this motion has now been approved. Is there any new business from council or comments? Mr. DeJohn? Okay. I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
Move.
Moved by Mr. Balestria, second by Mr. Mano. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed? We are now adjourned. Thank you.